Good morning, everybody. My name is Nicola and I am simply a stitcher. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, and I know I have had some new subscribers recently, then welcome. Thank you for subscribing and joining me today. And if you are a returning a returning viewer, thank you very much for coming back and spending some more time with me. So today I thought I would do a little stitch with me and you know, see how far we can get. I'm working on Minas Tirith, which is one of the travel poster series, the Lord of the Rings travel posters, and it's been worked on 18 count aida, and I'm doing this 2/1 full cross. So at the moment I am almost 60% through this piece, 58.59% to be precise, and I just thought I'd get this one out and do a little bit of stitching session today. Today is Tuesday, the 20th of September, and it is the day after the state funeral of our monarch, Queen Elizabeth. So today is kind of a back to normality day. We've had, in the UK, the past sort of 12 days or so have been all about the royals, and now we sort of settle into the Carolean age with Charles as our monarch. Anyway, let's see how much stitching we can do. That was too close. See how much stitching we can do today. So I hope everybody is keeping well, and as I said, if you are new here, then a very warm welcome to you. I know that the lovely Karen, the Needlebug, has given me a shout out this week, on top of the one that I had last week from Blushing Pink Stitches. And of course Jules has in her sort of show notes of the last few weeks, has had me mentioned along with a number of other stitchers. So if you're coming to me from any one of those channels, then, you know, thank you very much. But if you've just happened upon me here on YouTube, then of course, you know, welcome in the same sort of way. So I'm nearing 950 subscribers, which is phenomenal. So it'll not be long and I will reach that magic 1,000, and then I'll be able to do some lives and things like that. So as I said, I hope everybody is keeping well. We had an additional bank holiday here in the UK yesterday, given it was the state funeral of Queen Elizabeth. So I spent that with some stitching and watching, and then doing a bit more stitching and then a bit more watching. It was a long day. I mean, coverage was sort of started quite early in the morning on, and I mean, not that coverage had really stopped, but the Abbey, the funeral itself, the main funeral service was held in Westminster Abbey in London, just around the corner from where the Queen had been lying in state in Westminster Hall for a number of days. The lying in state ended at 6:30 in the morning, and then the Abbey gates opened for guests to be seated for the funeral from 8 AM. It was very interesting to see who was there, and even as well who was not there. I'm pretty sure that everybody's watching this will have seen it or seen highlights of it. There were a number of prime ministers, former prime ministers, and of course the current one, politicians, lords, recipients of the Queen's birthday honours, other dignitaries, ambassadors, crowned heads of state from other parts, of Europe and the world, and the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth was represented, and of course members of the British royal family, who we don't see all that often. So it was kind of nice to sort of see people like Princess Alexandra, who is advancing in years herself, Prince Richard, the Duke of Gloucester, the Linleys, Viscount Linley. I don't know if his wife was actually there, if I'm honest. Lady Sarah Chato, both of those Princess Margaret's children. Of course, you know, then other people such as Sarah Ferguson, the former wife of Prince Andrew. Her and the Queen had apparently developed a close bond in more recent times, and she was there with her daughters, and it was just lovely to see such a nice sort of turnout of people to come and see our monarch, you know, to her rest. Heartbreaking to see the little children there, Prince George and Princess Charlotte, and of course they would have been, you know, devastated to have lost their grandmother. I can remember being almost Charlotte's age when I lost my grandmother, and being quite bewildered about it. And of course, I mean, for me, there are two sort of heroes, if you like, of the whole thing. The first one for me was Princess Anne, the Princess Royal. That lady stuck with her mother throughout. She was at Balmoral with her when her mother passed away. She travelled with her mother's coffin to Edinburgh. She spent time with her mother at Edinburgh. She stood vigil in Edinburgh. She escorted her mother's coffin to London. Again, you know, spending time with her, walking behind the coffin as they went to Westminster Hall, and stood vigil with her. And of course, on the day of the funeral, walking behind the coffin as it was transferred to Westminster. And then after the London funeral was over, escorted her mother's coffin to Windsor for the committal service. That lady did some amazing things. She really did. And the other heroes for me, and I know that plenty of people on, you know, socials and things have mentioned this, were the pallbearers, the bearer party from the I think it's Coldstream Guards, Queen's Guard. Although I stand corrected on that, you know, if I'm not correct, I can never remember. There's that many military units that are in support or service to the monarch. I can't remember them all. But anyway, the bearer party at the funeral did a wonderful job under immense pressure. They looked after our Queen's coffin at every stage of the journey, and they did it with such I'm not sure what the word is I'm looking for. Stoicness, steadfastness, honour, pride, all of those things, I would imagine. And yeah, it was a fitting day with fitting tributes, you know, to our Queen. The part that kind of got me, put a lump in my throat, was at the very end of the committal, when we heard the Lone Piper. So yeah, yesterday, like I said, I spent my day doing that, and to be fair, since my last sort of stitch with me, and even really from my last floss tube, I've kind of been watching what's going on. I'm not a monarchist by any stretch of the imagination. However, I do have an interest in the monarchy because as a UK taxpayer, I help to pay for them and their residences. So, you know, I want to know that we're getting, you know, in essence, value for money from the monarchy. And I can say that on the strength of yesterday, I believe that we are. I was hearing some figures. Apparently 2/3 of the world's population tuned into the funeral at some point or another, which is truly phenomenal. When the Queen held her Platinum Jubilee earlier this year, there were lots of rumbles about how much it had cost to put the Platinum Jubilee on. And the cost of policing for the event was about £6 million. And that £6 million figure is also being sort of bandied about as the cost of security for the Queen's funeral. But the Platinum Jubilee, for a £6 million outlay, brought in about £1 billion worth of trade, of money, of income that was generated because of the monarchy into the country, which is astonishing, really, isn't it? So I think that the monarchy are sort of value for money because they do help with things, you know, like the economy, driving tourism and so on. And of course, you know, the Queen used to pay taxes in recent years, and I would presume that as Charles now assumes the role of king, he will carry on that. So I get that, you know, some people might disagree with me, and that's fine. It wouldn't be right for everybody to have the same train of thought. So, do you know, I keep splitting these blocks. I'm terrible this morning. I'm quite tired, that's what it is. I've had a long weekend. So yeah, I get that some people disagree with me. It wouldn't do for us all to be the same now, would it? Anyway, let's talk a little bit about what's happened elsewhere over the last sort of few days. So, for me, well, I've been at work. I've had days and days. I've had some days where it's been terrible, some days where it's been not so good, some days where it's been absolutely excellent. I am struggling mental health wise at the moment, but the good news is I'm doing something about it. I've enrolled in a zoom that in a bit better, focused in. I've enrolled in a course of CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, in the hopes that it will help with my anxiety, because I have noticed that certainly recently it's been getting worse, especially where work's concerned. Even though stitching is my therapy, it's not the cure-all, is it? Anyway, so that's that. At the weekend, Andy and I went off filming for his channel on Saturday. Now, middle daughter has started work, which is brilliant, fantastic. The problem is that it's a very early start and she's up at sort of 4 a.m. Which is not normally a problem, except she cycles to work. And for the last 2 times that she's gone on a bicycle, she's gotten into trouble. And of course, Andy or I or both of us or whatever have had to be up early in the morning to kind of go and rescue her, which is what you do as a parent. You help your children. So Friday was an early start for me, 5:20. Now, normally I'm up anytime sort of between 4:30 and 5:00, but sorry, no, 5:30 and 6:00. But considering I had a call at 5:20 to sort of jolt me out of sleep, it was Victoria. My bike's got a flat tire, so Andy went along and rescued her. So knowing that we were going out filming on the Saturday and that she was working, what we said was that we would be up early on the Saturday again and take her to work and then go straight up to do this village. Now, it was a really good idea, but crikey Moses, it did catch up with us because we were both shattered on the Sunday. And then yesterday, we didn't do much, obviously, apart from, watch the funeral. But yesterday, Andy was tired all day. Whew. Excuse me, I mentioned the T word, so it makes me yawn. But anyway, back to work today and see what this brings. The town that we went to a place called Otley. And it was absolutely beautiful, and such a town. I say it's a village with town status, I think Andy would call it, or a town with village status, or whatever. It's a parish area. I don't understand the ins and outs of it so much. But literally, it was a place that wherever you went, there was something to see. There was a market, which are obviously dying out in this day and age. There were some wonderful old buildings with plaques on them with the history and, like the blue plaques, but these are like the town council ones. There was just such a lot to see. In the main church, there was a book of condolence for the Queen, so I popped a note in there because I've not been able to do so. It was just lovely, and we'd finished there sort of by sort of midday-ish, so then we went and got some lunch before we came home. But yeah, I mean, the river wharf, I think it is, runs through the town, and it's just beautiful. I can't put it into words. It's so well kept. Next week, we are going to Northumberland. In part because it's our wedding anniversary. Also in part to do some filming. So I'm quite looking forward to that, a whole week off work, and it's during that week that my therapy starts, so hopefully I'll be able to get something under my belt, as it were, before I start back at work on the Monday. I'm supposed to be putting out a floss tube next week. I did mention this in my last floss tube, that we weren't going to be here, and people were like, oh, go and have your holiday and, don't give us another thought kind of thing. And I'm still undecided as to whether or not to do one. I'll take the stuff with me, but whether or not I film one is another matter, if that makes sense. So I'm not saying no, but I'm not saying yes either. I mean, the other option is perhaps later on this week I'll do another stitch with me, so you might get a stitch with me instead, and then do a floss tube, you know, the following week, and then sort of, you know, then a stitch with me, then a floss tube, then a stitch with me, then a floss tube. So I've got a couple of events coming up, one of which is top secret, because the person concerned may be watching this channel. I've got a stitchy retreat coming up, which is on, I think it's the first weekend or the second weekend in October. I think it's the second weekend. And then I've got a wedding in December. Dynamic. And I'm also trying to plan a trip away with the girls in November, just like for a weekend. Whether or not I'll be able to, I don't know, because it depends upon the rail services. Here in the UK, we've been seeing rail strikes. And if the railway network is on strike, I won't be able to take them where I plan to take them. So I have a few things coming up. Oh, do you know, it's because my eyes are tired, I keep splitting the blocks. Oh, wibble wobble. I've worked on a few projects this week. I worked on Alice for Lamb, which is not far away from a finish. I mean, this one we're at almost 60%, as I said, so we're hurtling towards the end line on this one. I've also worked on a stitching shelf, and I've worked on Envy. If you want to see, and if you don't sort of do so already, but you want to see where I am on these pieces, head on over to my Instagram. My Instagram is at Simply a Stitcher, and I post nearly daily on there, nearly. I had a couple of, a few days off, obviously, after the Queen died, and if I haven't got any progress to show, then I won't put anything on. But, if you've seen my Instagram, then you'll have seen with a stitching shelf, I have got across the whole of the top row of 10 stitches deep. And I've started on row number 2. And for those of you who don't know, with the stitching shelf, I'm working it on a modified version, can't speak today, of the Stitching Mommy's, Stitching Mommy? Is it Stitching Mommy? It might be, the typewriter method. Where she takes the furthest left-hand stitch on each, and does it sort of row by row. I do it sort of segment by segment in 10 stitch deep blocks. So the first stitch I work in the block is the top left, and I'll fill in whatever's in that square. So if it was on this piece, the first stitch I'd work is this one, top left of this square. I'd fill in whatever stitches are left. Then for my next stitch, if the one underneath is empty, I'll start with that stitch, pick up that colour, whatever's in that square. But I don't just stay in the same square, I go along until I've used up my thread, or there isn't a local or a convenient place to park it. And I do that with a row, which is 725 across by 10 stitches deep, and it's working well. The first row is done. I'm currently working on row 2, and it's looking phenomenal. I'm really pleased. But it's still relatively hard going. If I was on like a work day, I couldn't work on it the whole day and complete, 1,000 stitches. You'd be looking at sort of 800 tops, because there's that many colour changes. With it being a max colour version, there's a lot of colour changes. So I've decided, or it's been sort of, it's decided to make it my, to make it my weekend project. So on a weekend, when I'm at home, although I did manage it this weekend too, I'll work it sort of the whole day. And it does take a whole day to get 1,000 stitches in. I can literally stitch at the rate of about 100 an hour. I'm hoping that now the top row is done, they're on the second row. Oh, flipping Nora. On the second row it will get a bit easier. Whether it will or not, I don't know. We'll have to see. So yeah, very pleased with how it's turning out. I had envy out on the frame yesterday while I was watching the Queen's funeral, because I knew I got a lot of block stitching coming up in that, so I could manage that without a problem. And I've chosen this one today because it's an easy count, with my eyes being a little bit tired. It's easy to do. The count is being kind, apart from me splitting the flipping stitches. I'm not here in the schools yet, so because it's now nearly 8:30 in the morning, I would normally expect to have heard the schools by now, but I've heard nothing. I'm wondering if the local primary is having an additional day. Who knows? This stitch with me is not going to be as long today. I'm going to shoot for 40-45 minutes, but I'm a little bit later in starting, and as a 8:30, I've got to start work at 9. I'm expecting a busy day as well. Directly after a bank holiday, it's bound to be busy, isn't it? So yeah. Just sort of filling in the citadel here, the white city of Minas Tirith, in shades of grey. I mean, having said that, it looks lovely. I'm very pleased with this. Oh, dropped my needle. it's a very easy stitch. So as I said, I mean, although I've got to follow pattern keeper, it's not too taxing, especially when the brain is tired, the body is tired, the soul is tired. You know, I feel very drained at the moment. I think the problem is that I'm obviously ready for the break after this week. Go to the seaside. I had a bit of a trial at doing, if you guys remember, I was talking about doing a video of a day in the life, as it were, of me, how I managed to get 1,000 stitches per day done. Well, I did film it, and then I kind of deleted it. I mean, literally, I started every section with so and it just didn't read very well, and it was kind of more about me than about the stitching, and it wasn't what I wanted. So I'm going to go back to the drawing board with it and try it again. Have it more about the stitching, I think, because I don't want to bore everybody. I'm just talking about me. I've also been talking with one of my Instagram followers about washing pieces. Now, I've got several pieces that are needing to be washed, and I figured that I would do a video perhaps about that. I did do years back, I had a blog. I don't think I'd be able to resurrect it now because it's a very old blogger one. And on the blog, I did do like a tutorial, you know, with lots of photographs. But I think I might do a video about how I wash my pieces when I'm done. I've got a number that need to be washed, that need to be finished. Anyway, I shall consider doing that one. Dynamics. Oh, and the other thing, it's quite funny. On my last stitch with me, when I did the Know Your Needleworker tag, I was talking about live music and stuff, and what I enjoyed doing, and excuse me. One of the people I mentioned was Lewis Capaldi, and would you know it, Lewis has just released a new single. Unfortunately for him, it wasn't quite timed well, because he released it, it coincided with the Queen's death. Having said that, he did get to #1. So way to go, Lewis. And it's quite a funny video. It's a pastiche, I think is the right word, on a video by Wham, which sort of took me right back to the 80s, the Club Tropicana video. And it's quite funny. I mean, if anything, Lewis Capaldi is a man who can laugh at himself. which is, to be fair, it's not a bad quality to have. He's also announced that he suffers from Tourette's and has a tic, and he's being treated for that. So for him to sort of be coming through and saying, you know, look, I'm in the public eye and I have something physically wrong with me, is an enormous thing to do, especially for other sufferers of this thing of Tourette's. It kind of for them would mean that they're not alone. A bit like when Princess Beatrice wore an open back wedding dress and showed a scoliosis scar. Well, a bit like when Susan Boyle came out with her, not Princess Beatrice, Princess Eugenie. When Susan Boyle came out and said she'd had a diagnosis of autism, you know, that sort of thing. It's good because you'd feel like you're not alone. And if you don't know who Lewis is, go look him up. He's a funny guy. If you don't like swearing, though, watch what you watch, because he does have a bit of a potty mouth. In fact, when my eldest daughter and I met him in Leeds, she told him off for swearing on stage. Made me chuckle. He said to her, "Did you enjoy the show?" And she said, "Yes, I did, but you swear a lot." And he just went, "Oops." What he didn't know is that Hannah can't half swear when she's in mind. Mind you, I suppose back then to now it's, you know, a couple of years down the line, isn't it? You might notice that I'm filling in these areas in different directions. It's just a personal choice. And also it means that with me varying the method, it means that, you know, there might not be sort of finish lines or block lines or anything like that. So, do you know? I've just had some kiddies go past. School must be in session. Nearly went one too far then. I'm going to finish this thread and then I need to go and start my working day. Need to go to the loo, pull some clothes on because I'm still not dressed. I've got my oodie thing on and my pyjamas. Have a quick ablutions. I've got a meeting this morning, so I definitely need to be dressed because it's with the department head for our team. So I should be doing that. And then what I'll be doing is I'll be counting down to my next stitchy time, because that's how work works for me. Start at 9. Have a break sort of, you know, anytime between 10:30 and 11:30, depending on when my lunch falls. And I'm counting down to when I can come back in here and pick up the old stitching again. So yeah, you'll have to keep an eye on the channel. in the upcoming sort of week. As I said, I'm undecided as to whether or not to do a floss tube or a stitch with me. What I might do is I might do a stitch with me anyway and have it ready, and if I decide not to do the floss tube, I'll release the stitch with me in its place. Come on. And then do a floss tube the following week, so you'll have like a 3 weeks worth of floss tube. I'll have to think about it, because I mean, you guys quite rightly pointed it out. It's my wedding anniversary and my holiday. Last time I went on sort of a holiday, I didn't do a video, but then when I went and stayed in Lutterworth in a hotel with Andy to do some Village Idiot stuff, it was a very hot and bothered video, shall we say. It went from me literally baking in a Travelodge hotel room. I mean, it'll be nothing like that if I do a video this time. Nothing like that. It's a lot nicer at the moment. It's a lot cooler. In fact, because of how cool it is, it's almost wintry. Autumnal. Autumn, I believe autumn starts tomorrow, 21st of September, I think. Me and Andy and the girls were having a conversation about this the other day, and I think autumn officially starts tomorrow. Right, so that is me done, guys and gals. That's 40 minutes, 180 stitches, 186 stitches to be precise. I'm going to be working on this piece certainly for the rest of today, possibly tomorrow as well. I might take this one with me next week and see if I can't get it finished while I'm out and about. But just show you guys the mock-up of it as well, so you can see the full. I should have done this at the beginning, but ever prepared. So that's the mock-up. And as you can tell, I'm working sort of on these bits here. It says welcome to Minas Tirith. It's a lovely stitch, I have to say. Not many colours in it. I think there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 colours. And these pieces are so effective. So yeah. So that is all from me, guys. All that's left for me to say is thank you very much for spending the time to come and stitch with me today. I will see you guys on the next video, whichever one that may be. Might be a floss tube, might be a stitch with me. We'll have to just sort of see how we go. But other than that, take care, happy stitching, stay safe, and let me know any thoughts that you have down below, questions, comments, whatever. You are most welcome to put your comments behind. As I say, I do realise, understand, appreciate not everybody will agree, and but I do like to hear others' points of view. So happy stitching, guys. Take care, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. So bye for now.